My father's name lit up my phone again. I didn't answer. 3 days earlier, he had already decided I didn't belong. He didn't frame it as anger or disappointment. He framed it as fact. And now, on the very day he had insisted would be perfect without me, everything was unraveling. Somehow, that was the moment they needed me. His words replayed with brutal clarity. "You make people uncomfortable," he had said. Not loudly, not harshly, calm, certain, like he was pointing out the weather. That tone hurt more than shouting ever could. I remember sitting on the edge of my bunk in the barracks, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the cracked concrete floor. Outside, the wind dragged dust across the metal siding in soft, rhythmic taps, steady, patient, like a countdown I didn't yet recognize. He kept talking. He always did. "Your sister's future husband comes from a very prominent family," he said. "They notice everything. This wedding has to be flawless." And after Faye, when wasn't rapid. Then, after a pause that wasn't mercy, but calculation. "You don't fit that kind of environment." I waited. For hesitation. For regret. For some sign he remembered I was his daughter. Not a liability. Nothing came. "I don't want any scenes," he finished. "Just don't come." I didn't respond right away. Quiet had become my survival skill around him. Growing up, I learned that explaining myself only invited lectures. Disagreeing meant being labeled dramatic. Silence was the only way to keep what little dignity I had left. "Okay," I said eventually. He exhaled, relieved. "That's for the best." The call ended. The screen went dark. I stayed there long after. I was on active duty, stationed in a place most people only talked about in half-jokes and rumors. I lived by structure, responsibility, and accountability. I handled pressure for a living. But in my own family, I was still the problem child. The one who didn't smile correctly, didn't charm rooms, didn't know how to perform belonging. My sister, Claire, had always been different, effortless. She knew when to laugh, when to lean in, when to make people feel important. People loved her. My father loved what she reflected back at him. Her fiancé, Daniel, completed the picture. Old money, private schools, that quiet confidence that comes from never questioning your place in the world. My father spoke about him the way some men talk about achievements, not as a person, but as proof. I'd met Daniel twice. Both times he shook my hand like it was an obligation, his attention drifting elsewhere before the grip even loosened. I didn't take it personally. Being overlooked was familiar, but being explicitly uninvited from my own sister's wedding landed differently. The invitation sat unopened on my metal desk. Cream paper. Gold lettering. I never tore it open. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly where I stood. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could handle classified systems, manage risk, make decisions under pressure, but put me in a room full of strangers in expensive clothes, and suddenly I was an embarrassment. I didn't request leave. I didn't book a flight. I confirmed my return to duty. Where I was stationed wasn't glamorous. It was quiet, controlled, honest. Out there, no one cared how polished you were. You did your job, or you didn't. Worth was measured in competence, not appearances. The day before the wedding, my father sent one last message. "Don't do anything stupid. Don't show up." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I turned the phone face down and finished packing my gear. If he wanted me gone, I would be gone completely. The morning of the wedding broke clear and unforgiving. The desert has a way of stripping everything down to essentials, no softness, no illusion. Just heat, sky, and distance. I liked that. It didn't pretend. I moved through my routine like any other day. Boots, uniform, burnt coffee. As I crossed the base under the rising sun, a strange calm settled over me. Somewhere far away, Claire was probably getting ready. Hair, makeup, photographers circling. My father was likely rehearsing conversations, making sure every detail reflected well on him. And for once, I wasn't part of it. That didn't feel like loss. It felt like relief. Mid-morning, I walked a familiar path near the perimeter fence, the desert stretching endlessly beyond it. I pulled out my phone without thinking. I opened social media. At first, everything looked exactly as expected. Flowers, smiles, Claire in white. My father standing beside her, pride practically radiating off him. I almost closed the app. Then I saw the video. It wasn't staged. No filters. No careful framing. Someone had hit record in a moment of panic. The camera shook. Voices overlapped. Tension bled through the screen. I recognized the reception hall instantly. Crystal lights, pristine tables, everything my father had insisted be perfect. Daniel's voice cut through the noise. Sharp, uncontrolled. And standing there beneath an endless sky, something inside me shifted. A tightness I hadn't acknowledged loosened, replaced by a cold, sinking certainty. "What did you do?" I whispered, the words barely audible over the wind. My phone vibrated. Dad calling. I didn't answer. Not the first time. Not the second. I slipped the phone into my pocket, as if that small gesture could keep the chaos contained on the other side of the fence. Out past the perimeter line, the desert remained unimpressed. It didn't register weddings or social disasters. It didn't care who had humiliated whom, or which carefully curated image had cracked. The wind swept over the sand with the same patient indifference it always had, steady, persistent, unmoved. I finished my shift almost mechanically. Muscle memory took over where my thoughts refused to settle. Checklists, protocols, the kind of quiet efficiency that doesn't require emotion. A few colleagues acknowledged me as they passed. Small nods, neutral expressions, no questions, no curiosity, no demand that I explain myself. That absence of expectation reminded me again why I had chosen this life. By late afternoon, the sun pressed down mercilessly, bleaching the landscape into sharp edges and glare. I found a narrow strip of shade beside an administrative building and finally pulled my phone from my pocket. 12 missed calls, 8 from my father, 2 from my stepmother, 1 from Emily, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I opened Emily's message first. "Please call me. Something's wrong." No acknowledgement of what she'd agreed to days earlier. No recognition of my absence. Just urgency, raw and unfiltered, bleeding through a handful of words. I stared at the screen longer than necessary, feeling that old reflex stir the instinct to step in, to fix, to absorb tension so others wouldn't have to. The role I'd played my entire life. I closed the message without replying. The unknown number had left a voicemail. I didn't listen yet. I didn't need to. I already knew the shape of it. The ceremony had collapsed, and suddenly, I was no longer inconvenient. I was useful. As the heat eased, I walked back toward my quarters. The sky burned itself into layers of orange and violet, the kind of sunset people pay to capture. I'd always found it strange that something so striking could exist in a place people associated with secrecy and unease. Appearances, I'd learned, rarely told the whole story. I showered, changed into civilian clothes, sat on my bed with my back against the wall. Only then did I let the images replay the raised voice, the sharp edges in Marcus's tone, the expression on my father's face when control slipped out of reach. I hadn't watched the entire video yet, but I didn't need the full sequence to understand the scale of it. This wasn't a small disruption. It was a fracture. My phone buzzed again. Emily. I let it ring. I hated myself a little for that, but I also knew if I answered, I would fall back into familiar patterns. I would listen. I would carry the weight. I would move before anyone asked why I'd been pushed aside in the first place. Instead, I opened the voicemail. Is this Sarah?" a man asked, voice tight. "This is Uncle Tom. I'm at the wedding, or what's left of it. Your dad's asking for you. He says it's important." Important. The word tasted wrong. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. The low hum of the ventilation system filled the space. In my work, important meant immediate, high risk, something that required clarity under pressure. In my family, it meant the image was cracking. I thought of my father as he'd been when I was younger, methodical, outwardly composed, deeply invested in how things appeared. He wasn't openly harsh. He provided. He attended events when it reflected well on him. But everything came with conditions. Approval was earned. Affection was transactional. Love was contingent on behaving correctly. Emily understood that early. She became exactly what he needed her to be. I didn't. When I enlisted, he was proud at first. It sounded impressive when he told people, his daughter in uniform. but the pride faded when it stopped translating well socially. I wasn't climbing the ladder, he understood. I wasn't aligning myself with the kind of success he could showcase. He couldn't manage or curate my choices. That made him uneasy. This place had been my refuge, the one environment where capability mattered more than charm, where no one asked me to soften myself for comfort. I checked my phone again. The video had spread. Shares multiplied. Comment sections erupted. Strangers dissected my family like a storyline. Did you hear what he said? Total meltdown. That poor bride. I watched the clip again, forcing myself not to turn away. Marcus's face was flushed, his composure gone, the polish stripped away. And my father, unmovable, controlled, image-obsessed, looked diminished. For a brief, uncomfortable moment, I felt justified. They had believed removing me would guarantee perfection. And still, everything had come apart. The problem had never been me. The realization settled heavily. Not triumphant, just clear. My phone rang again. This time, I answered. What? I said, keeping my voice level. Where are you? My father demanded. The authority he usually wielded was gone, replaced by urgency. Do you have any idea what's happening here? I think I do. You need to come back, he said. Now. I closed my eyes. You told me not to. That was different, he snapped. This is serious. It always is, I replied. When you need something. A pause. Then the pivot. Your sister needs you, he said. This family needs you. I let out a short, surprised laugh. No, I said. You need containment. Whoa. His breath caught. Don't do this, he said. Just do what I asked. Follow directions. The space between us stretched dense, unresolved. Think about it, he said finally. Please. The word landed carefully. Unfamiliar. Fragile. I am, I said. And this time, it was true. I ended the call. Outside my window, the desert had gone dark. Stars scattered across the sky in careless abundance. I felt the pull habit versus self-respect. Obligation versus distance. For the first time, I didn't rush to resolve it. If I went back, it wouldn't be as the daughter who apologized for taking up space. It would be on my terms. The night passed without sleep, not restless, but alert. The kind of waiting that knows something is coming. Morning arrived clean and unforgiving. The desert never eased you into the day. I dressed, tied my boots, moved through routine. In a window's reflection, I caught myself composed, controlled, exactly as I was trained to be. No one could see the thin fracture beneath the surface. It was my sister's wedding day. I didn't say it aloud. I didn't need to. The thought settled where I'd learned to carry weight quietly. By mid-morning, the calls stopped. That worried me more than the noise ever had. In my family, when the phones went quiet, decisions were already being made. I took my break near the edge of the base, where the land flattened into something that looked endless. And I waited. The fence drew a sharp seam across the horizon. On the other side, heat shimmered over open sand. I'd always been drawn to this stretch of ground. It reminded me that some limits were fixed and others were choices I'd already made. I settled onto a low concrete divider and let the sun sink into my shoulders. Closed my eyes. Breathed. I told myself I was okay. I told myself this was my decision. Both were true. Neither softened the weight of it. Out of routine more than interest, I checked my phone. The screen lit up immediately. New alerts, new tags, messages stacked on top of each other. Not calls this time. Activity. Noise. A surge that hadn't existed an hour ago. I opened Facebook expecting damage control. Carefully staged photos. A statement about a private family matter. What loaded instead was disorder. The first video buffered slowly, the weak signal dragging time thin. Then the image snapped into focus and a voice tore through it. Loud, angry, unmistakably Marcus. The camera jolted. White linens blurred past. Chairs tipped. Faces froze mid-reaction. Someone screamed. Glass broke. My breath stalled as I watched Marcus lean toward my father, his expression warped by something raw and unchecked. Words poured out of him, mocking, accusing, slurred with venom, the kind of things you don't walk back, the kind that rot in the air after they're spoken. The room around him collapsed into stillness. Not calm impact. The kind of hush that settles when people realize they're watching a line being crossed. Then the video ended. My pulse thundered as I stared at the screen. Around me, the base moved on. 2 co-workers passed by, joking about nothing important. A vehicle rolled past. Life continuing, unaware. It felt like standing between realities that refused to overlap. I scrolled. More clips, different angles. Short recordings from guests who'd understood too late that this wasn't confusion. It was implosion. In one, Emily stood off to the side, hands clamped over her mouth, her white dress, a stark contrast to the wreckage around her. In another, my stepmother tried to intervene, voice shaking as she pleaded with Marcus to stop. And in every frame, my father stood rigid, face flushed, jaw locked. The man who built his identity on control had lost it not by shouting, but by being powerless to stop what was happening. Comments flooded in faster than I could process. What did I just watch? This is unreal. He just destroyed his own wedding. My phone felt heavier with every second, like it was dragging me down. I replayed one clip, forcing myself not to flinch this time. This wasn't rumor. This wasn't exaggeration. This was real, and I was witnessing it from the exact place I'd been ordered to stay away from. A message appeared from Emily. He's not himself. I'm scared. The word tightened something deep in my chest. Fear, not embarrassment, not confusion. Fear. Emily thrived in environments with scripts, rooms where smiles were practiced and outcomes predictable. This wasn't that. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again, stopped. Another message arrived. From my father. Call me. Now. I lifted my eyes from the phone to the desert beyond the fence. Heat warped the distance, bending the horizon. For a moment, I felt disconnected from myself, watching from somewhere above. The daughter he'd dismissed. The soldier he never fully understood. The person he suddenly needed. His words from days earlier echoed back. Don't come. You'll embarrass everyone. A sharp thought surfaced, uninvited. They hadn't needed my help to ruin this. The realization didn't feel triumphant. It felt clarifying. I wasn't the flaw in their perfect picture. I never had been. The cracks had always been there, hidden beneath charm, money, and carefully curated appearances. All I'd done was step out of the frame. My phone vibrated again. Emily calling. I stood, the concrete warm beneath my hands as I pushed myself upright. My footing was steady. Training slid into place, quiet, reliable. Assess. Breathe. Decide. I answered. Emily. Her voice fractured immediately. I don't know what to do, she whispered. Dad's trying to handle it, but it's getting worse. Everyone's recording. He's saying things. I know, I said gently. I've seen the videos. A pause. You have? Yes. I'm so sorry, she said, words tumbling over themselves. About everything. About Dad. About telling you not to come. I closed my eyes. It matters, I said. But we'll talk about it later. Right now. Listen to me. She sniffed. Okay. Are you somewhere safe? Yes. I'm with Aunt Laura. Good. Stay there. Don't leave alone. And don't talk to Marcus. He keeps texting. Don't respond. Not yet. I heard my own voice then, steady, directive. The one I used when things went sideways at work. It didn't soften. It didn't apologize. Emily held onto it like a rope. When the call ended, I lowered my phone slowly. The air felt charged, thick with something unresolved. I knew this moment mattered. Whatever came next would alter things permanently. I hadn't planned to be part of my sister's wedding at all. But from a quiet strip of sand inside a place most people weren't supposed to know existed, I realized I was about to be pulled into it anyway. I stayed there long after the call ended, my phone resting in my palm like a live wire. The desert stretched ahead, calm to the point of deception. Inside my head, pieces were already aligning into a picture I didn't want and couldn't ignore. I walked back toward my quarters slowly, letting heat and distance ground me. Training had taught me that panic spreads fast. So does clarity. If I was stepping back into my family's chaos, I needed to bring the latter. By the time I reached my room, my phone had erupted again. Notifications layered over each other. Each one a small warning. Blogs had picked it up. Local outlets, the kind that moved faster than facts. Headlines were forming stories before anyone paused to verify. Wedding meltdown shocks guests. Wealthy groom loses control at lavish ceremony. I skimmed one article. Jaw tightening. Anonymous guests quoted. Accusations of verbal abuse. Claims of heavy drinking. One line stopped me cold. Sources suggest this may not have been his first incident. My stomach dropped. I sat on the edge of my bed and replayed the footage not as a sister, not as a daughter, as someone trained to read escalation, his posture, the pacing, the way his voice rose, then flattened into something cold. I'd seen that look before, in men who believed consequences were optional. A message from my stepmother came through. Your father is barely holding it together. Please call him. I typed back without hesitating. Is Emily safe? The reply came instantly. For now. That was enough. I called my father. He answered immediately. Breath uneven. Sarah, thank God. Where are you? At base, I said. Where you told me to stay. I have rate. He rushed on. This has gone completely off the rails. Marcus isn't cooperating. His family's furious. They're saying we provoked him, that we humiliated him. I closed my eyes. Did he threaten anyone? A pause. Too long. He said some things, my father replied carefully. People say things when they're upset. Dad, I said, voice sharpening. Did he threaten Emily? Another pause. Then, reluctantly. He told her they needed to talk privately. Said she was making it worse by listening to us. My grip tightened. That's not acceptable. I know, he snapped. But we need to manage this. The press is calling. His family has lawyers. They're talking about defamation. There's no defamation when it's recorded, I said. And there are multiple videos. He exhaled, frustration bleeding into fear. This is why I didn't want you involved. You always jump to worst-case scenarios. I laughed once short, without humor. No, I said. This is exactly why you should have. Silence settled between us. What do you want from me? He asked finally. The question caught me off guard. He had never asked it before. I steadied my breath. I want you to stop thinking about appearances, I said, and start thinking about Emily's safety. She's with family. Family didn't stop him from exploding in public. Safety isn't proximity, it's behavior. Another pause, then, quieter. What should we do? I exhaled slowly. This was the pivot. First, I said, Emily does not meet him alone. Ever. Second, stop talking to his family without legal counsel. Third, document everything: messages, calls, voicemails. He muttered. You sound like a lawyer. I didn't respond, because for the first time, sounding prepared mattered more than sounding agreeable. No, I said. I sound like someone who's dealt with unstable people before. He didn't push back. After the call ended, I stayed where I was, thoughts moving faster than I could organize them. A quiet certainty settled in. This wasn't just a ceremony collapsing under stress. This was a pattern surfacing when pressure stripped away the polish. Money and charm had concealed it for a long time. They just hadn't been strong enough. I did something next that surprised me. I searched Marcus. At first, everything looked pristine. Curated profiles, charity galas, articles praising his business instincts, the kind of digital footprint built to reassure. Then I adjusted the search, added terms, dug beneath the surface. That's when the cracks appeared. A short notice in a local paper from 2 years earlier. A domestic disturbance at an apartment complex. No charges, quiet resolution. Another entry, a lawsuit settled privately. Details sealed. Then a third. A former business partner alleging intimidation. My pulse picked up. I kept going. Archived forums, comment threads buried under unrelated discussions, places most people never bother to look. Careful language, indirect warnings, women describing the same cycle, the charm, the control, the sudden edge when things didn't go his way. No names, no accusations, just patterns. I saved everything. Screenshots, links, dates, organized it into a folder. Training took over. Collect, verify, prepare. Emily called while I was still sorting through it. Her voice was rough, worn thin. He won't stop messaging, she said. He apologizes, then blames me. Says this wouldn't have happened if I'd stood up to Dad. That's manipulation, I said gently. You know that. A pause. I think so. I keep replaying everything, wondering what I missed. You didn't miss anything, I said firmly. This isn't on you. Silence stretched. Dad says you're overreacting. I closed my eyes. Of course he does. End quote. I'm glad you're not here, she added quietly. I mean, I wish you were. I just don't think I could handle both of you right now. Despite everything, a small smile surfaced. That might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me. She let out a weak laugh. I'm serious. So am I. Listen, I'm coming back, but not tonight, and not to pretend everything's fine. Her breath caught. Okay, until I get there, follow what I said. Stay with people. Don't respond to him. Save everything. He was a cries. I will. When the call ended, I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. The hum of the ventilation felt louder now, as if the building itself was paying attention. I hadn't planned on going back. Not like this. Maybe not ever. But the picture was too clear now. This wasn't about a wedding. It was about reality forcing its way through a carefully built illusion. About a man my father trusted because he looked right, spoke smoothly, came from the right circles, and about the daughter he dismissed because she didn't. I opened my calendar and checked flights. The earliest one landed the next evening. It wasn't cheap. I booked it anyway. When the confirmation came through, something settled in my chest, not fear, not anger. Resolve. I wasn't returning as the awkward daughter who needed managing. I was returning as someone who saw what was happening and refused to look away. The airport felt unreal, a liminal space where emotions dulled just enough to function. I moved through security on muscle memory, shoes on, bag zipped, eyes forward. No one there knew why my jaw was tight or why my phone never left my hand. To them, I was just another traveler carrying urgency and silence. On the plane, I took the window seat and watched Nevada fade into rust and bone. Somewhere below, the base folded back into secrecy, unmoved by the chaos elsewhere. As the engines roared, vibration pressed into my ribs like a reminder to breathe. My phone buzzed once we leveled off. Dad, where are you? I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to give him coordinates. I needed the distance to do its work. A minute later, Emily texted. He showed up at the house. Mom wouldn't let him in. He's parked across the street. I sat up straighter. This was the escalation. Is he alone? I typed. Yes, he keeps texting. Says he just wants to talk. Don't engage. Call the police if he doesn't leave. I mean it. A pause. Dad says calling the police will make it worse. Heat flared behind my eyes. The same old instinct: manage appearances, minimize risk, hope danger behaves if ignored. It only gets worse if you pretend this is normal, I wrote back. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, returned. Okay, I'll tell Mom. I leaned back, forcing myself to zoom out. I couldn't fix this from 30,000 feet, but I could prepare. I reopened the folder, reviewed everything, patterns emerging beneath noise. My father called. I let it ring out. Then, deliberately, I called him back. Where are you? He demanded. On my way. Landing tomorrow evening. Relief flickered through his voice before he masked it. Good. We need to coordinate. No, I said. We need to prioritize. Listen. Marcus showed up uninvited. He's pressuring Emily. That's not optics. That's safety. He just wants to explain himself, my father insisted. His family says he was provoked. By what? I asked. By being told no? Silence. I've looked into him, I continued. This isn't new. Incidents, settlements, people who learn to stay quiet. You don't know that, he snapped. I do, I said. And I have proof. That stopped him. What do you want us to do? He asked, the edge dulled. Stop controlling the story, I said. Start protecting your daughter. Cut contact with his family. Emily doesn't meet him alone. Ever. He sighed, long and tired. You make everything so complicated. I smiled, thin and sad. No, Dad. I just refuse to make it small. We ended the call unresolved. That was fine. I wasn't coming back to negotiate my worth. When the plane landed, rain fell steadily, the kind that slicks roads and softens edges. I took a ride straight to my parents' house, familiar streets blurring past. Everything looked the same. Trimmed lawn, warm lights, a calm that tried to convince you nothing bad could happen there. Inside, tension met me immediately. My stepmother hovered near the kitchen, eyes red. My father stood by the fireplace, hands clasped tight. Emily was upstairs. "You came?" my father said. "I said I would." End quote. "Where is he?" I asked. "Gone," my stepmother said quickly. "For now." "For now," I echoed. Emily came down slowly, wrapped in a sweatshirt too big for her. Shock had hollowed her out. She crossed the room and hugged me without hesitation. "He won't stop texting," she whispered. "Says I owe him a conversation." "You don't owe him anything," I said. "And you're not having that conversation." My father cleared his throat. "We need to be careful. His family has lawyers." "Axe, careful doesn't mean quiet. You're not understanding." "No," I cut in. "You're not listening." I placed my phone on the table. "This is what I found. Patterns you ignored because they didn't fit the image you wanted. You're accusing me of negligence," he said. "I'm accusing you of choosing optics over reality," I replied. And it almost cost Emily. She stared at the table, tears slipping free. "Dad, he scares me." "That broke something," my father sagged, looked older than I'd ever seen him. "What do you want to do?" he asked her. She looked at me. "I want it to stop." "Then we document," I said. "We set boundaries. We bring in people who don't care about his last name." My stepmother nodded. "I'll call a lawyer. And we call the police if he comes back." My father hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't accountability. But it was movement. That night, I slept on the couch, phone charging nearby. I dreamed of desert skies and rain-slicked streets, of lines finally drawn where they should have been all along. When I woke, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a decision. No messages from Marcus. Not yet. I didn't believe it was over. But for the first time since the video surfaced, I felt aligned with myself. I hadn't come back to be managed. I'd come back to tell the truth and make sure it held. Morning light slid into the living room in pale, uneven strips, catching dust in the air and exposing the stillness left behind by the night. I stayed where I was on the couch, listening. The house felt different when it wasn't performing. No rushed footsteps, no rehearsed optimism. Just the low drone of the refrigerator and the steady tick of the clock, moving forward whether anyone felt ready or not. I checked my phone. Still nothing from Marcus. That didn't ease my mind. Quiet from men like him rarely meant retreat. It meant recalculating. Emily came downstairs around 8, hair pulled back, face bare. She looked worn down, but steadier than she'd been hours earlier. She poured coffee, sat across from me, and wrapped both hands around the mug as if anchoring herself. "I didn't sleep," she said. "Neither did I." She hesitated, then lifted her eyes. "I should have pushed back. About you. About the wedding." I met her gaze. "We were both taught to keep things calm," I said. "We just learned different ways to do it." She nodded, letting that settle. "Dad's talking to a lawyer," she added. "He asked if I wanted to press charges." I raised my eyebrows. "I said I want a restraining order," she continued. Her voice wavered, but she didn't retreat. "I don't want to see him again." A quiet pride moved through me. "That's a boundary," I said. "A real one." 8. My father appeared in the doorway, phone already in his hand. He ended the call when he saw us. For a moment, he just stood there, taking us in two daughters at the table. No smiles, no effort to smooth the edges. "We have a meeting at 11, he said. "The attorney thinks a temporary order is possible, given the videos and messages." "Good." He nodded, then paused. "I spoke to Marcus's father." I stiffened. "He's angry," my father said. "Not at us. At Marcus. Says he didn't know any of this." "Did he apologize?" Emily asked quietly. My father shook his head. "He said it should have been handled privately." A short laugh escaped me. "Of course he did." My father's irritation flared. "This doesn't have to become a spectacle." "It already is," I said evenly. "The question is whether you keep pretending you can contain it." He bristled. "You think I don't understand that?" "I think you understand it in theory," I replied. "But emotionally, you're still trying to protect appearances." The words landed heavily. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "I made mistakes," he said at last. The admission sounded awkward, unfamiliar. I trusted the wrong things. I ignored signs. Emily tightened her grip on the mug. "You ignored me," she said. "When I told you he scared me." The room stilled. "I thought it was nerves," my father said. "Wedding stress. And when you told Sarah not to come?" Emily pressed. He flinched. "I told myself fewer variables meant fewer problems." "People aren't variables," I said. He nodded once, sharp and pained. "I see that now." It wasn't an apology, but it was closer than we'd ever been. The rest of the morning disappeared into logistics calls, emails, printing screenshots, saving messages. I stepped in where emotions stalled things, explaining processes, keeping momentum when feelings threatened to derail it all. My father watched me differently now, less like a risk, more like someone he should have trusted sooner. At 11, we sat across from the attorney in a quiet downtown conference room. She was calm, direct, unmoved by Marcus's name or background. She asked Emily questions and waited without interrupting. "This is coercive behavior," she said plainly. "The public incident strengthens your case. So do the messages." My father leaned back, the weight of it settling in. "What about retaliation?" he asked. "His family has resources." "In way. They also have reputations," she replied. "And this isn't a situation they want scrutinized." I watched that sink in. It was the first time someone spoke his language, power, and consequence without flinching. By mid-afternoon, the paperwork was filed. A temporary order requested. A line drawn. On the drive home, rain streaked the windshield, blurring the familiar streets. At a red light, my father spoke. "You didn't have to come back," he said. "No," I agreed. "I didn't." When point minus, "Why did you?" I considered it. "Because Emily asked for help," I said. "And because I'm done letting silence decide things." He nodded slowly. "I underestimated you." I didn't answer. The admission was enough. That evening, a news alert appeared. Marcus's family released a statement expressing regret and requesting privacy. The tone online shifted. Less spectacle, more accountability. Emily read it over my shoulder. "Do you think it's over?" "No," I said honestly. "But it's different now." "How?" "There are boundaries," I said. "And witnesses." She exhaled, relieved. "Thank you." I looked at her, not the effortless one, not the favored one, but a young woman finding her footing again. "You're doing the hardest part," I said. "I'm just here as backup." That night, I packed for the return to base. My father stood in the doorway. "I told you to stay away," he said quietly. "Because I was afraid you'd see the cracks, afraid you'd see me. It's life." I zipped the bag and met his eyes. "I see you," I said. "What you do with that is up to you." He nodded once. I left before dawn. As the car pulled away, calm settled over me. I wasn't fleeing. I wasn't hiding. I was returning on my terms. Back at base, the approval email arrived just after sunrise. Granted. Effective immediately. I read it twice, let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Out here, things made sense again. Lines mattered. Actions had consequences. Emily called that afternoon. "It went through," she said. "He can't come near me." "That's good." "I'm exhausted," she admitted. "But lighter. That's what boundaries feel like." She hesitated. "Dad wants to talk to you." I watched heat ripple across the horizon. "I'll listen," I said. That's all. When my father called that evening, his voice sounded unfamiliar, less controlled, more human. "I owe you an apology," he said. "For what I said. For years of it. I would not minister." I leaned against the railing, metal warm beneath my hands. "I told you not to come because I was ashamed," he said. "Not of you, of myself." I closed my eyes. "I built my identity on appearances," he continued. "You didn't fit the story I wanted to tell. So you tried to manage me," I said. "To shrink me." "Yes," he said. "I was wrong." Silence followed, not hostile, just heavy. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he added. "I just need you to know that I see you now." Practically, seeing isn't the same as respecting, I said. "I know," he replied. "I'm learning." That mattered. Weeks passed. The story faded. Marcus disappeared from public view. Emily started therapy, rebuilt her life piece by piece. We talked often, real conversations, not polite updates. My father changed slowly. Imperfectly. He listened more, asked questions. Once, he admitted he didn't understand my work and asked me to explain it. That alone felt seismic. One evening, I walked again along the fence where this all began. The place where I'd watched my family's illusion break from a distance. I thought about the girl I'd been quiet, trained to stay small, believing love was earned by not being inconvenient. I wished I could tell her this. Being excluded isn't the same as being unworthy. Silence isn't peace. And sometimes, being told to stay away is the moment you finally see the truth. I didn't win by humiliating anyone. I won by refusing to vanish, by choosing honesty over harmony, by setting boundaries instead of begging for acceptance. And when I stopped trying to fit their version of me, everything changed. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever been made to feel too much, not enough, or simply in the way your voice matters here too, share your story. Stay with us. We tell the ones that change things.